Okay, so here's a demo of margin, border and padding. I'm using CodePen, which is an online tool that basically emulates the HTML and CSS files and gives us an instant preview while we write code. I'm going to start off with two elements, two divs. So div element it stands for division, and it's basically a generic box or container. This is going to have some content in it. I'm going to create a second div. So we've got two divs here with some content. We can see in our preview over here that this content is stuck to the left and top, and they're stuck one on top of another. So we can start to style this. In the CSS, I'm going to create a selector for the divs. This is going to affect both elements. I'm just going to up the font size just so we can see the content a little bit better. So that's better. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is introduce some spacing around these objects. So I can do this with margin. So margin adds space outside of an element. So I'm giving 20 pixels for the margin. So we can see that it's pushed this content away from the edge and top, and it's pushed the content away from one another. I want to add some border. Now with border we can specify three things. We can specify the thickness of the border, so I'm going to choose 1 pixel. We can choose the style, so I'm going to choose solid, and that automatically creates a black border, but I can also specify the colour. So I'm going to choose BBB, which is a light-ish mid-grey. So that's put a border around our two divs, and we can see it's starting to look a little bit nicer. There's one thing that's a little bit odd in that the content is sitting really close to the border. It's a little uncomfortable for me. We need a little bit of space so we can have padding, which puts space inside the element. I'm going to add 16 pixels. So that's added space around the content inside the element. Now we can go back to the border because we can play around with these elements. We can change the border size. Okay. We can change the style, so we can go from solid to dotted. And if I up the size, we can see that a little more clearly. We can go from dotted to dashed. And there are a few others that look a little bit naff, really. There's double, which we can see better if we up the size. Looks a little naff. And there's one called groove, which you'd think would look good, but it looks really 80s. So it's a bit naff. Okay, so the best ones are solid, dotted, and dashed.